I just got done watching The Last of Us Episode 7 Left Behind. This is Ellie's big backstory episode. We're going to be talking about it in full spoilers. So if you have not watched the episode yet, you are not safe here. Go watch it, come back, enjoy. And with that said, if this is your first time watching one of my Last of Us reviews, I am one of the biggest Last of Us video game fans. It is my favorite video game of all time. I've been very anticipating this episode, specifically these last 3 episodes, because the way and the build-up, everything for me after Sam and Henry in the game is some of my favorite material to see coming up. And this episode, I loved. It's getting hard to because I'm going to be doing an episode ranking of these, of which one is my favorite and which one is not. But what I will say is I do have one little worry about the show so far. And it's nothing that I have up to this point. I'm going to trust the showrunners. I'm going to trust the writers. But my one worry is I think the show might get a little bit rushed by the end. There is still, I would argue, a lot of material to dive through. And a lot of that is because where Left Behind ends is not exactly where the DLC add-on story ended. So for people who don't know, when the game had come out, this story was not originally in there. It was added on later on. Now it's a big crucial part of the game. That's my thing. It did not end the full story here. At least technically you could go on without telling the rest of it, but there is a little bit more in there that I kind of hope, but maybe they won't show. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it. I'm very interested. But the other thing I got to say is Ashley Johnson, who originally played Ellie, everyone was predicting was going to be in this episode. Maybe I'm just blind, but she was not. So what episode is she in? Is she in next week's? Is she in episode 9? Very fascinating stuff. But just to kind of dive into this and give my overall thoughts, this is everything that they had done from Left Behind. This is the better version of it. Again, I know there will be people out there who are a little bit pissed that there's less infected, but I loved how it breaks. I love how it opens with Ellie trying to help Joel, and Joel just grabbing her and saying, go north, go find Tommy. And her being frustrated and going upstairs and slamming the door, and cuts back to her as a kid. Shows her running around, going through school with Fedra, then a Fedra officer kind of just being like, do you want to do this or this? And I like that they kind of give Ellie this different ideology that, maybe Fedra isn't that bad. Maybe she can make a difference there, which then balances her when her friend Riley comes into her life once again after being gone for 3 weeks, and she says that she has joined the Fireflies. And it's a big crux of the entire moment because we don't know why she's there, but there's 2 different ideologies here, 2 different people on 2 different paths, but they're 2 of the closest friends. And we see Riley, of course, say, I have a surprise for you. You're going to say no, but you got to say yes. And she convinces Ellie to go along with her. And there's so many subtle things within here and within this episode. And a lot of stuff that actually really ties into Last of Us Part 2. Specifically, Take On Me. If you've played The Last of Us 2, there is a very small moment that you could easily miss where Ellie plays the guitar singing that song. And it's actually one of my favorite moments in the entire game that I actually missed my first time going about it, which I was very pissed. I have no idea how I did. So then the second time I went through it for 100% completion, I did find that moment. It was, again, one of my favorite moments. But these subtle details that they do to set up Ellie and the love of music, of course, and certain things with her Walkman were just very sweet. And hearing Ellie and Riley have these conversations, just first off, I've believed in their relationship a lot faster than I did within the game. And I think that's a big thing to say is also the game does have a lot of gameplay scenarios in here where you have to run away from infected. You also have to do this. You have to destroy raiders, because it flashes in between her looking for medicine for Joel and her all in a mall, as well as tying back to the flashback moments. And honestly, some of it is a little bit dull. But what I will say with that is I love what they were able to do here with getting straight to the point and getting to the emotional crux more and spending time with Riley and Ellie more instead of just taking away from it. And I think that's actually one of the strongest parts about this is that it makes this better because you're able to believe in this better. And the pacing is stronger throughout the entire thing. And all leading up to them just, finding the drink and the guy dying and killing himself pretty much with the pills and the alcohol and then them drinking and them getting to the mall. And Ellie's still not sure what they're doing there, but she turns on the lights, and that was probably one of my favorite moments in the entire season so far. Seeing Ellie's eyes just glare up and light up. And the shot, the cinematography, the way they frame it, from her looking at all the lights kind of glowing, but also flipping it back to just seeing Bella Ramsey's face. It's so touching, it's so small, but it brought a tear to my eye. And a lot of that should go to say, give Bella her goddamn awards. She deserves it. Just like I said last week, Pedro Pascal deserved all the awards. Bella Ramsey does too. And it's crazy because usually with, award season, there's always a category for best guest star. I don't know who the fuck they nominate. I'll be honest. Because you had the Bill and Frank episode. You have the Sam and Henry episode. You have fucking Riley now. You have Tess now. I mean, at this point in time, I would nominate I would nominate every single guest star we have had. That is how amazing each and every one of them are. And I was completely taken back by Storm Reid's performance in here as Riley. And Bella Ramsey, once again, just kills it as Ellie. But their relationship, their core friendship, and of course, you find out that they like each other. There's a lot of hints to that leading up to there. Whether it's her kind of just taking her through and then, of course, getting to the merry-go-round, which is just stunning. And when Ellie's going around it and she's looking up at her, maybe as a kid that kind of reminds you of like you looking at your first love, or maybe you are married now and that's kind of one of the glares you just give, like just admiring them. I know I do it a lot with my fiance, just admiring them doing something small or dumb that they enjoy doing. And it's just that small thing that just you can believe in love. And I love seeing them kind of go through the corners of it, the photography, the photo booth. These little things that mean so much to kids. And I mean, even look at the escalator. I mean, that's something that like these kids have not grown up with. They've grown up in such a shitty environment. It's these wonders that we take for granted on a daily basis. But it's these things that kind of remind you that you should appreciate every single one of these things. And then them going and finding the arcade and getting to play Mortal Kombat. Now, I don't know if it was just me. Was anyone else kind of hoping that they were going to show Jack X Racing in there? Because that is from the game. But I like that they actually got to play Mortal Kombat. I like to see that they got to do the fatalities and have fun with that and the way they all tie into that. But then the sense of dread hits in. We see that there is an infected there that they do not know about. And Ellie and Riley, they go back to her place. Riley gives her the gift. Ellie finds out that she's been stationed there and that she's leaving. And that this really much was her episode and her place to say goodbye. She wanted to give her one last good night. And for me, Riley's being reserved in this moment because I think it was not just to say goodbye, but it was also to tell Ellie how she felt. And in the same way, Ellie, as we can see as she's reflecting herself in the mirror, fixing herself up, is that she feels the same way about Riley, but she doesn't know when to say it. And when she walks away, pissed and frustrated, she comes back the same way that she does with Joel, because she knows for people that she loves, she needs to keep them in her life. And I love that she runs and she hears the screaming and she goes into the Halloween store and they reconcile and they start dancing with music. Great music choices, by the way, with the masks on. And then Ellie takes it off and they kiss. And for that little small moment, probably felt like the world to them. And you could feel it. And she says, "Don't go." And it just, again, swells all the emotions. And then the infected runs in. Which, in the game, there was not just the one. It was tons of infected. But just the one. And we've seen how acrobatic these damn infected can be. They end up fighting it off. And they both end up getting bit. And seeing Bella Ramsey and then, of course, her seeing Riley get bit. Them sitting there holding hands and them kind of going over their options. We got options 1, we got options 2. We can take the easy way out, or we can just keep going on. And I love every line that they said in there. And then again, some of those were from the game, of course, but they were perfect. And then when it cuts, right before she starts to break the glass right beforehand, it cuts to her being frustrated, looking for something to help Joel. And the way they intersplice this all, and then cuts back to Joel and Ellie, and her sewing him up, and him holding her hand and letting it go and just being like, okay, I'm going to let you do this. It was one of the most best moments that we've seen between Joel and Ellie so far. And if you've played the game, we know next week's David. I did not watch the preview, but we know David's next week. Now, I'm curious to see if they touch any more on Ellie's past at all in the next episode, or if they touch on any more of the Riley and Ellie stuff. But I do have a gut feeling that that's about it. I think the audience can just know what's going to happen there. We don't need to see Riley die. We know she's dead. That is a clear indication there. From what Ellie's talked about and everything like that, we know she's dead. Now, I have a feeling they're not going to show her anymore. I think that's kind of just their blunt way of showing it because we've seen a lot of people die. But I'm curious. And if you guys haven't been watching or listening to the podcast, the HBO Last of Us podcast, which has the two creators and, of course, Troy Baker talking about the episode, it is very insightful. I heavily recommend it. Again, I'm doing this as more of a reaction right afterwards. I do a live watch along, but this is for me to kind of come to my feelings. And it was just an amazing episode. And I love where it ended at. And next week is another big Bella Ramsey-centric Ellie episode. And next week might be my favorite segment from the game. So I'm very excited to see how they do it. And again, like I mentioned, I am a little bit worried that they're not going to have all the time to do everything. I'm a little bit worried on that part. So we'll see how far they get in the next episode and specifically where the finale picks up at. I know, again, a lot of that is padded with gameplay, but there's some certain moments that I really hope hit. And goddamn, I can't wait. So guys, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and comment down below your guys' thoughts. We got tons of content coming up this week. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. So of course, until next time, stay classy.